All right, we are good. Shazik Sonoda, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate this. This one's a different one for me. I've been trying to do some different things and shine lights in different areas in the world of swimming lately. But this one is even more different, and I appreciate you doing this and opening up. You are the founder of a nonprofit called No More Under, and so I kind of want to dig into that. You're also the director of a film called Drowning in Silence, and this is pretty much what this podcast is going to be talking about today. Is this epidemic of childhood drowning, and you have some firsthand experience that we're going to dive into. So I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, again, I appreciate you for having me. I think just having access to all of the amazing swimmers and competitive world is new for me. I find that I'm mostly talking a lot to parents of young children and also teenagers, but
Mhm.
having this audience that you have, which congratulations, you have such a massive following.
Thank you.
Um, it's huge because it's something that we don't think is going to happen to us, and
Yeah.
it's something that I think everyone should, be aware of, have awareness about. And because you all are such big proponents of swimming, helping others to understand that and also, being incredibly safe around the water.
Yeah, so much to talk about. And I'm so glad that I do have a platform now that can help in this way. It's cool to talk about Olympians and their life stories, but there's something special about this, and I'm glad we can really shine a light here because it's such an issue. Growing up in Australia, massive issue. Obviously, in America, we have our own things to deal with here, challenges, social challenges as well. So I know you're going to shine a light on that stuff as well. So just in terms of a little bit about your background, there's so much to talk about, obviously, but just kind of where do you start when you talk to people?
Let's see. I start with I feel like I've had four lives. Just
Hmm.
say
Yep.
that right off the bat. So I come from a background of
Hmm.
production. I was at like MTV News and VH1 and kind of did the whole New York television thing.
Yep.
And took a moment in advertising and then started having babies. And I love children and love having babies for whatever reason. And because they're joy. So I had four boys in about 5.5 years.
Wow.
And so lots of juggling, but really loving life, things were really well. Super safe mom, I would say. And
Mm.
ultimately, one of my children, my third son, drowned in my friend's backyard pool when he was 3 years old. And so,
Wow.
as you can imagine, that was then just again the beginning of another life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know where to start with that because there's so much pain associated with that. First of all, and I know you've talked about this many times, so and made a film about it, and so I'm sure the pain has eased slightly, and now you could probably see it as a teaching moment. But I'm sure there's a lot of crap that comes along with that, right? Of like you lose a son in that way. There is I'm sure there's some sort of like deep pain. Obviously, there might be some humiliation involved, and just you've got the inside of like your family that you've got to deal with, and then you've got the outside crap as well. And it's like I couldn't imagine that type of pain, right?
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing, and I don't know if it's interesting, but like, obviously afterwards I did all of this research and I
Mm.
know all of these things now that I didn't know going in. Obviously, I knew I needed to be safe around the water. My children were in swim lessons. And unfortunately, Yori, which is my child that passed away, didn't want to get in. He was screaming, didn't want to do lessons. And we were actually kind of getting him more comfortable in the water before his lessons started. So we had been going to one teacher, we were going to go to another. But just kind of stepping back, it's 100% preventable, right?
Hmm.
There's so many ways that people pass away, but there is so much guilt now knowing all the things that I know and all of the ways that I could have prevented this from happening. I think that is, part of what's driven me to do what I've been doing and starting a nonprofit, and also, sharing my film, making and sharing the film is, um, this doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have
Mm,
to happen to anyone. And the crazy thing is that, again, we talk about this being the number one reason children 1 to 4 die, the number two reason teens die. You kind of assume that all of these children don't know how to swim. And again, in my studies and research and touring and meeting other families and people that have lost children this way, like, there are swimmers, proficient swimmers,
mhm,
swim team
mhm.
folks that, just get in precarious situations.
Yeah. I saw a situation at the World Championships yesterday where a swimmer blacked out and fell to the bottom. Did you watch this? And it fell to the bottom of the pool. The coach had to dive in and pull them off the bottom. I didn't see all the details, but I mean, it can happen. Like accidents are accidents. So I'm sure there's part of this where that no matter what, you can't prevent every accident from happening, right? But there's certainly a situation where you may say, well, I want to at least equip them to be able to competently deal with a situation if it arises, right? I would imagine. I also did tell you kind of a story previously before this podcast when we met that I had an experience with this, like a real life experience here. So, I was part of a team of athletes in Melbourne, Australia, training for the 2004 Olympics. And we had 5 people on our team, just our club team, qualify for the Olympics. And our coach got selected to be an Australian swimming team coach for the Olympic team. So we have a party at his house, and he has a backyard pool, and we're all celebrating inside the house. Next minute, we see him open the glass door, dive into the pool fully clothed. And this is 5 Olympians celebrating going to the Olympic Games at his house. He dives into the pool, pulls his son up off the bottom of the pool, who is 3 years old, the same age as Yuri. And it was a situation where it was like, how did this just happen? It was like a blink of an eye. Now, thankfully, his son had only just gone down, and he spotted it really quickly. But that's how quickly it can happen. There's no noise. It's silent. It happens in a split second, and a tragedy happens like that. And so I'd imagine there's many, many stories like that.
Yes, for sure. And it's, again, you would just assume that being a swimmer, or, that you're immune to that,
Mm,
So it's been really interesting learning all of the different ways. And, a child can drown in a bucket of water. I actually met
mm,
someone on the plane who found his 6-month-old in the toilet, you know,
mm,
face first. And so it has just, again, the stories come to me because I'm out there speaking about it. And I just am hoping to spread awareness, to families, to just teenagers, honestly, everyone, because at least here, where I live, boating accidents are huge, where people are just on the boat drinking and, again, and it's an accident. So I just think the
mm.
more that we talk about it and the more that we acknowledge that it's something that doesn't matter, your socioeconomic status, your race, your, gender. Granted, there are statistics, obviously,
Mhm.
that some people do drown more, or do get in trouble more, but
Right.
in general, this is something that is an every person problem.
Well, I guess there's got to be some positive that has come out of this tragedy, and I guess that the positives here would be that you started a nonprofit, and then you also made a film about this, and so the film is Drowning in Silence, and the nonprofit is No More Under. Which one came first, the nonprofit or the film?
Well, it's one of those things, they both kind of sprouted at the exact same time.
Mm,
It was about a year. I was coming up on a year after Yuri had passed away, and really felt the need to do something. It came up, and I'm like, I haven't done anything
mm,
to honor him. I haven't done anything to continue his legacy. And I think when I initially started, kind of, again, simultaneously, I bet you if you looked at, the business wherever I, incorporated or whatever I did, they're literally in the same month, because I was under the impression that I would do things with a nonprofit and film them. I kind of
mm,
thought that's what the film would be, more of a, hey, I'm out here talking to pediatricians, I'm out here talking to, first responders and
Mm,
swimmers, etc. And then the film at some point just shifted incredibly. And also COVID happened. And
mm,
so it was really challenging to get the nonprofit where I wanted it to be. So luckily, if you're, filming with a very small crew, and I ended up meeting with other families around the country who have been in similar situations, and there's also a statistic that for every one child that drowns, 8 sustain, injuries that take them to
mhm,
the emergency room and often, last their lives. And so I also met with a family, that has a child who is, really trying to still recover from his
mm,
drowning, 4 years ago.
mm,
So the film took a different turn, and it's definitely more personal, vulnerable, and really walks you through not only the grief that you face and that these families are dealing with, but also some of the guilt. And then lastly, and I think more importantly, turning the pain into purpose. Like, you just said that, like, what good has come from this? And it really is debilitating losing a child.
mm.
Um, and you have a choice of
Yeah.
what you do with that and how you use that.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 4 kids of my own, and there's been obviously instances where you're like, whew, close call there. You know what I mean? And like just walking across the street and almost being hit by a car, and you think to yourself, wow, like what a bad parent I would have been to let that happen. But like these things just are part of everyday life, and they're so hard to avoid these things at times. But in terms of the beauty that has come out of the film itself, is it hard for you to watch Yuri? I guess in a way he's in this film, and there's aspects of it where you have to watch it over and over again. How has that been for you to see that?
So yeah, I've watched the film over 100 times at this point.
Hmm.
And and we've been screening across the country. So not really answering your question in this moment, but it's been beautiful being able to travel across the country and meet with,
Right.
water advocates and people that
Right.
care about this,
Hmm.
um, across, like I said, the country, and really try and make connections
Hmm.
in this fight. And we call ourselves water warriors. So, really just connecting with those folks. But I will say, when I see Yori in particular, I smile. Like,
Mm.
it's the best part of the film for me, is seeing
Mhm.
my beautiful child with beautiful smile, beautiful hair, and amazing energy. Um, I smile every time.
Mhm.
But I think seeing moments where I'm in pain,
Mm.
definitely, I'm a mover and a shaker, if that's what I should
Mhm.
say. But I move so quickly often that I don't allow myself to feel the pain. I think that's
Mm.
how I've gotten through. And so it's those moments when I see myself on screen being sad, like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, like, of course I'm sad, but I don't think that I've allowed myself the opportunity to look in the mirror and say, WTF,
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the film has given me that opportunity to say, yes, that's hard. Like, oh my gosh, you got through this. Like, you are taking steps every single day, which should be a pat on the back alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we lose any people, because we know people have a short attention span, I want to let them know where they can find the film first of all.
Okay, so right now the film, it's a little bit tricky. So literally my call right before your call was talking with the distributor. So we're hopeful that the film is going to be out this fall.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, you can go to the website, and it's called drowninginsilence.com.
Okay.
And not only will we update you when the film is on iTunes and Amazon, etc., but there's also great, I assume maybe that your folks won't need it, but there is a database that you can type in a zip code,
Mhm.
and get swimming lessons around the country. So we've been able to do that because there is a bit of a call to action. When you finish watching this, you want to do something. And,
Mhm.
one thing you can do is make sure that all of your people and all of your loved ones have swim lessons, and just, understand how important watching the water, something as simple as, you know, dedicating one person as your water watcher, because that's exactly, you know, when you look at your coach and what happened, you know, at that party,
Right.
you know, oftentimes we think everyone else is watching the water and
Right. Right.
kind of talking and you're watching, but I always like to say the moment it takes for you to answer, to look at a text message and answer a text message, someone around.
Right.
You
Right.
always need those eyes on the water. But yes,
Yeah.
drowningsilence.com, and then nomoreunder.org is our nonprofit. And really what we're doing there is providing access. Again, I don't like to use too many statistics, but for Black and brown children are 4 to 5 times more likely to drown than their white counterparts. And we just want to make sure that we remove as many barriers as we can. Some of them are cultural, some of them are financial, some of them are generational. So we are just trying to get as many kids into the water as possible. If I had one wish, it would be that swim lessons are offered in schools. You know, I think, is that in Australia? Do they offer swim lessons in schools?
I think so. Like, I can't remember exactly, but I really do. I think like everybody just learned how to swim back then. Like I remember just like going in, like, you know, as a group and just kind of learning. Yeah, I think it is for sure.
Yeah. And so here in the States, you know, there are some places, like some pockets that do that, but obviously it's pricey and there's, you know, there's lots of barriers there. But oh my gosh, can you imagine if every child had the opportunity to learn how to swim and survive? And then again, you have your elites that go on and move on to doing, you know, competitive swim, but that at least everyone, you know, if they fell in a lake, they know how to survive.
Right. How many kids in America per year drown?
Oh, I know the larger number that is about 3,500 drown overall a year. And again, the trick is that it's completely preventable.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So yeah, we're just doing our best over here to make sure that everyone knows what's going on, you know, because it's not brain surgery. We don't need to find a cure. We just need the word to get out.
All right. Well, listen, I'm sure there's somebody listening to this right now who's thinking to themselves like, yeah, my kids probably aren't ready to be on their own in the pool right now. You know, like you got to get them lessons. And so there's certainly someone that's listening to this, and we're going to make an impact here just on one person by them taking some action here and doing something about it. There are nonprofits like yours, No More Under, where you can contact and get help. Like if you need whatever assistance you need from your organization, reach out to No More Under, get the help that you need, whether it be financial or anything, you know. So please do that. It's just such a huge deal, huge, important topic that we're dealing with here, especially as swimmers, you know, like that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
Well, and the other thing that I do want to appeal to your swimmers, and I'm not sure, I'd love for you to tell me, but, you know, we have a lifeguards shortage here in the United States. And I know in Australia, I always point to Australia, never been there, but I know that, or at least I believe that lifeguards there, it's a reputable career to be a lifeguard. And I think, you know, here, I don't know if it's not as cool as it used to be. I feel like when I was growing up, it was kind of cool to sit on the beach and be a lifeguard. But a lot of places are, you know, going unprotected, you know, whether it's the beach or the pool. And so I do want to appeal to, you know, this community that does have some swimming skills and enjoys water to, I don't know, when you're not training, be a lifeguard. I don't know. Is that good? Or if you're training competitively, it's hard to like.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a great, you know, first career for someone young who's in swimming, who's growing in swimming, you know, just maybe senior in high school or early in college type person, someone that's responsible, somebody that can learn all the you know, safety techniques, you know, CPR and things like that, and wants to give back to their sport as well. There's thousands of swimmers out there. So yeah, you're right. Like protect the water that you're spending the time in. It's so vital. So I think there's that as well. So well, that's incredible that the film is up and going, and it's in places being viewed right now, which is cool. What's kind of been the feedback? Has it been surprising where people have come up to you and be like, "Wow, we really needed this," you know?
Yeah, I think the majority of people are just surprised at all of the statistics that we cover, all of the, surprising facts. And
Mm,
also just the fact that the way we've kind of treated water up until this point, there's a woman who is in the film, Joanne Barnett. She used to run ISR, which is Infant Swim Resource. And she just kind of it's shocking sometimes that you're like, hey, as parents, we want to throw our kids in the pool and kind of say, hey, jump to mommy. And then so your kid thinks that they should be jumping in the pool when they're not necessarily strong swimmers, and again, we put our children in puddle jumpers and our kids. I was actually just in Miami last week, and it's always a little bit uncomfortable for me still being in a pool. Especially there was no lifeguard there. I was at a hotel pool, no lifeguard, and there's a kid with his puddle jumper, kind of swimming, like a doggy paddle. And then a child thinks that they can swim with or without a puddle jumper. So, these are some of the things that we make you think about in the film that just give you a different perspective. So, I mean, that is definitely my hope, that when people walk away, they have a different perspective about water. It's a beautiful thing. Swimming is a
mm,
beautiful sport, and it's something that lasts you your whole life. You can swim, you know. It's easy on your joints and your
mm.
body, but we also just have to be take precautions and be aware of the dangers just as much.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, talk about a skill that's so transferable. You know, you can swim anywhere. Once you know how to swim, you're safe in the ocean. You're safe in lakes. You're like pools, like kind of just anywhere. And there's water all around us. There's water everywhere. It's just one of those things where I walk into any body of water and I feel extremely comfortable. And
Yeah.
I've met adults who actually had a drowning experience, like you say. Not everybody drowns. They actually survive. There's some survivors, but they're scarred for life. And so one of my first jobs was teaching adults to get comfortable back in the water again, who'd had a previous kind of drowning experience as a younger kid, and they were just in complete panic in water that you could stand up in, basically to your knees. You know, they would just freak out completely because of this trauma that they had. And yet, after 3 or 4 weeks of really working with them, the progress they make and that just to see them comfortable in the water again is such a incredible feeling for me as a coach. And so there's that aspect of it too, of people who've had these experiences. And if you're a swimmer out there, you can go back and teach adults. That can be some way that you could give back as well. There can be many different ways, but I agree, the skill of just feeling comfortable in the water. And for me as a parent, knowing that I could walk away from my kids in a pool at a certain period of their life, whether that was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever it was, knowing that, okay, they know how to swim, they know how to get to the other side. Now, that doesn't take away the accidents that can happen in pools. There's many things, but just knowing you can turn your back and they're okay is such a powerful feeling for parents too.
Yep. No, I agree. And I do appreciate the fact that you did give back. I think that it's hard to say that swimming is a privilege, but it's like, it's amazing that you can walk into any body of water and feel comfortable. Like, not only is that a privilege, that's just something that you take for granted, because
Mhm.
you feel so comfortable around the water. And there's so many, like I said, I mean, I did the YMCA program growing up. And so I've generally felt comfortable in water. And it is for me, I'm just anxious around it now. And I'm anxious with anytime I'm in a pool with children in
Mhm.
general. I just want to make sure that someone is watching, or, quite a few
Mhm.
of my friends have homes with lakes. Um,
Mhm.
very similarly, hey, we're barbecuing, etc. And I am the one that cannot take my eyes off of the water. But I do appreciate the give back and just understanding that it's just not something that everyone has the joy of experiencing, because it is
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah. One of the big pushes in Australia, I remember, was kind of getting people to fence their pools in as well. That was a big push that contributed a lot to the less drowning statistics, by just fencing the pool in is a big help.
Well, that's the whole thing, Brett. It's so challenging with swimming because there's so many things that can happen in so many
Right.
different ways. I've talked to parents who thought their child was napping and their child got out through the
Hmm.
door and is in the
Hmm.
pool. Whether it's pool fences, life jackets,
Hmm.
swimming in a lifeguarded area. And it's like, it's frustrating because you have things like car safety where, hey, click it or ticket. You should put your seatbelt on. It's something that we're trying
Hmm.
to do, and it's
Yeah.
just automatic. But with swimming, I think because it's such a fun thing and because there's so much socializing around it, we don't always focus our attention where it needs to focus. And not to be promoting everyone else's websites, but I really encourage you all to go to Drennan's Dreams. So it's Drennan, and then with an S, and then dreams.org. Drennan I'm a teenager who was on the swim team, and
Mm.
literally a lifeguard was right there and did not see him. And so that's another thing that I tell parents, and people in general, is that a lifeguard is your second line of defense.
Hmm.
Like our eyes are the ones that can see this and prevent, this from happening. So
Yeah, we fully expect there to be screams and shouts and slapping and water, and it's just not the way it goes. It's silent.
it's
It's a
quiet.
silent killer. Yeah.
And that was the thing for me when, we were just in a backyard pool and we had a bunch of kids. I think there were 7 kids there, and it felt a little too quiet,
Mm.
and that was for me. I'm like, where's Yori?
Mm.
Because he was always the loudest and he was, just had a big personality. Where's Yori? And
Yeah.
so it is frustrating, even, the depiction that we see in the movies, that it is loud and people
Mm.
anything. It's
Yeah.
you can't get anything out because there's water in your airways.
Right. Right. And kids tend to kind of almost relax too, of like, oh, if someone's going to save me, or I'll get out of it. And I don't know, this weird thing, but I don't know. Let's spend a lot of time in getting kids lessons and getting them learn to swim and getting them up to speed with being able to manage themselves in the water. So certainly go out and watch the film when it comes out. We'll link all this up too, by the way, Shazik, so people can have this. We'll link up your nonprofit as well. People can reach out to there as well. But I appreciate you spending time and talking about Yori today. It's going to make an impact on somebody out there for sure.
I appreciate it so much, Brent. And again, I just appreciate the time to sit and talk to me, because I know you all are all amazing competitive swimmers. And so again, it feels like something that, cannot happen, but it does. And I think the only thing that I ask is that we just talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
let's just be open about it, and just know that it is a possibility, and to have more awareness. So again, I appreciate your platform to discuss and
Yeah.
shed some light.
Absolutely. And a support group if it does happen. Look, we never want it to happen, right? We want 0 drownings, but the reality is tragedies do happen. So we want a support group of people too, where they don't feel isolated and have to go through what you felt, to an extent. Of course, they're going to feel that, but I'm sure that your nonprofit provides support for those people too. So thanks for doing this, and thanks for sharing. We'll link it all up, and good luck with the fight and the cause. Okay.
Thank you so much, Brett.
Thanks,
Take care.
Shazik. Bye.
Bye.
Swim Angelfish. Swim Angelfish is an online certification program that strengthens your teaching curriculum to serve swimmers of all abilities. Swim Angelfish will prepare you and your instructors with the skills to teach swimmers with autism, physical disabilities, anxiety, sensory and motor conditions, and more. Learn to teach skills faster and with more comfort with Swim Angelfish. Apply for an Only Alpha Pool Product Scholarship and receive up to 50% off your certification. Go to swimangelfish.com today to apply.